Shalom, it's Friday in Israel. It's September 19th and it is day 714 of the war in Israel. I'm Rotem Magen. It's good to be back. It's been a while. Let's read what the Israelis are reading today in the newspaper, in Yediot Achronot newspaper. It shares about the very hard day that happened yesterday. 2 locations, Shtei Zirot, Shisha Chalalim, 6 dead soldiers. Here they are. 4 of them were killed in Gaza, in Rafah, as their military vehicle went over an explosive device that killed them. 2 more soldiers were killed in the Allenby crossover between Jordan and Israel by a humanitarian truck driver that was taking humanitarian aid into Gaza. The truck driver shot 2 soldiers. So let's read more about this. Hagiburim shelo yashuvu, the heroes that will not return. Halochamim alu al mit'an. The fighters went over an explosive device. These things are improvised explosive devices by Hamas. Venaflu, and fell. In Hebrew, when a soldier falls, it means the soldier is killed and has died. Ron, from the Golani Brigade, it says that he celebrated his 20th birthday just yesterday. And Omri Chai, the company commander, his 2nd son was born just 1 month ago. Eitan from the commando unit, he got married to Atara just 3 months ago. And Iran, from an elite unit in the paratrooper brigade, he is a great grandson of those who established this paratrooper brigade in the IDF. So he has a very long heritage of family in the paratrooper brigade. The 4 of them met in the officer training school in the IDF, but in the last few weeks, they're serving and they're fighting positions in Gaza, and they died together on this Hammer. Hammer is the military vehicle. 3 more soldiers were injured. We don't know who they are. They're not mentioned, but in Israel, many times when some soldiers die, others are injured, and they're for long periods of times in the hospitals, and Israel is dealing with so many injured soldiers in the physical sense and in the emotional and their mental sense. The article shares personal stories and about their great personalities and what families they come from. And Israel's being so small, many people, almost everybody knows a soldier that was killed, maybe multiple soldiers, or those who were injured, or someone who was a relative of someone that was killed. This war is just taking a very long time. Next, still yesterday, another fatal terrorist attack happened in the Allenby crossover between Jordan and Israel. Hanahag hayardeni shel masa'it hasiyua, the Jordanian driver of the humanitarian aid truck, shot to death Yitzchak, here he is. Yitzchak is 68 years old, and Oren, 20 years old. So this humanitarian aid truck was on the way to Gaza. The terrorist, as a driver, entered the Israeli territory, and just before the security checkup, I guess to see maybe if his gun or something, if he has anything that's dangerous, he opened in fire. He also stabbed the 2, and then he was killed by the security man that was in the area. Okay, the chief of staff here is highly recommending to stop any humanitarian aid that's coming from Jordan until investigating this thoroughly, and also changing the biduk. Biduk is the checkups, because what I've heard, as this was more, this was shared in length on the radio this morning as well, the IDF trusts the Jordanian military for these security checkups. So whoever they send, whoever the Jordanian military sends to come into Israel, the IDF trusts. Yes, they'll do a physical checkup maybe inside the Israeli territory, but there's no security checkup before these people come into Israeli territory. So this incident is going to change the guidelines. In the image here, we see the location of the Allenby crossover. And here's the gun in which the terrorist driver used to shoot Yitzhak and Oren. Yesterday also, millions, here's another article that reminds me of the siren that happened yesterday because of a unmanned aerial vehicle that's coming from Yemen into the south of Israel, and it hits a hotel entrance in Eilat, the most southern city in Israel. In this image, we see the smoke. It hits right outside of the hotel. Here's this unmanned aerial vehicle that can be very, very dangerous. They can really kill and cause a lot of damage. Before I move on to the other stories, I want to show you this advertisement in red and black, and it reads Hatzilu, save in Hebrew, or help. Hatzilu et hachatufim, save the hostages, save the soldiers, chayalim, save Israel. Okay, Hatzilu et hachatufim, et hachayalim, et Israel. There's going to be a big demonstration today in Jerusalem at 8 p.m. in the Paris Square, Jerusalem, and that's 8:30, and in Tel Aviv in the Hostage Square at 8, half an hour earlier. This is from the, you can say, the headquarters of the families of the hostages, and they are continuing to demand a deal that will release all hostages, the dead and the alive ones, at once. They are yelling, they are screaming, they are praying, they are begging. They're trying to recruit as many as citizens as well to come alongside them, to show up in these squares, to bring the media on, and they're advertising it. I cannot, 714 days the hostages are still in Gaza. As I turn the pages, there's another interesting announcement about asking for forgiveness. And as Israel's approaching the high holidays, in Hebrew you call them the Tishrei holidays, Chagei Tishrei, because it happens during the Hebrew month of Tishrei, the first month of the Hebrew calendar. There are some late night tours that happen in Jewish cities, even pre-dawn tours. You walk around the Jewish areas. It could be the old city of Jerusalem or Tzfat, which is in the northern part of Israel, very, very Jewish area. You hear cantorial music, you hear prayers, you hear about the history of these ancient Jewish places, and you're supposed to ask for forgiveness. So this is the days before Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the Hebrew year, and Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, which will happen 10 days after Rosh Hashanah. So here they are announcing where it will happen, where in Israel, what times. So this is a very special time in Israel. Just yesterday, 50,000 people showed up in the Wailing Wall, you can say Western Wall in Jerusalem, to pray, to ask for forgiveness, to show up, and to connect to the God of Israel. Let's move to the Weekend magazine. As it's weekend, so there's usually more articles and interesting magazines. Bli lashir kavot. This here, I'll show you the headline or the front page. Haroim ve'einam nir'im. Those who see but are unseen. And this article is about the Mista'aravim. Can you say that? Mista'aravim. This is a special commando unit that the soldiers dress up to Arabs, and they enter the enemy territory without anyone knowing, without the enemy knowing. They do a very sensitive job, and they leave without any. They hope to leave without anyone from the enemy knowing that they were there. So this article is interviewing some of these soldiers. What are you really doing there? And aren't you afraid to be caught? They know Arabic. It says here they penetrate quietly into areas that are controlled by Hamas without anybody identifying them. They collect information and intelligence. They kill sharpshooters of Hamas organization. They operate in very sensitive operations and activities, and then they return without anyone knowing that they were there. So the commanders and the fighters of this Mista'aravim unit are being interviewed here. And the headline reads, Bli lehashir akevot, without leaving footprints behind. Very, very interesting. You don't read about this often, but I'll read a a quote of one of them when they're asked, aren't you afraid to be found out, to be revealed? One of them is answering, we always think outside of the box, מחוץ לקופסה. איך לא יראו אותנו כשאנחנו מגיעים? How they will not see us when we arrive. איך לא יזהו אותנו כשאנחנו פועלים? How will they not identify us when we act? איך להיטמע בשטח, meaning how to kind of be camouflaged in the area, or in the midst of a very hostile Hamas camp. The military, the IDF, has many challenges, and the IDF needs a unit that will do these actions in a very quiet way, which in the end of these operations, no one even knows that any IDF force was there. It's very, very impressive and interesting. Here they are, of course, their faces are unseen here. And it's a secret unit that IDF depends on. Before we end, I want to show you another interesting advertisement about a jewelry company called Royalty in Israel. That doesn't matter, but look at the image. The image is a wife or girlfriend hugging her husband or her boyfriend that are coming back with the IDF uniform. So yes, it's advertising all the jewelry, but it says, may you have a year full of hugs. This is a reality in Israel where husbands or boyfriends go out into the field and fight, and you hope they come back and you can hug them. And on a positive note to end with, bracha bechol bis, a blessing with every bite. So the high holidays, as we said, is Rosh Hashanah, and later it's Sukkot, Yom Kippur you don't eat, the Day of Atonement you don't eat, you fast. It is a lot about food and meals and family time, and there's amazing different recipes here from the different types of cultures that are in Israel. So it says here from East Europe and Persia and Syria and Iraq and Morocco, where Israel is like a melting pot of all of these different countries and cultures that come in together as the Jews immigrated from all these different countries worldwide, world spread. It says here, the foods that we eat every year in Rosh Hashanah are a lot more than just a recipe from your grandma. They are a symbol of identity, of remembrance, and of hope. So when these high holidays happen in Israel, we are really uniting together in something that's more than just the food. There's really much symbolism in the foods that we eat, in the pomegranate, in the apple with honey, these different symbolic foods, and great, just great warm dishes as well that people cook. That the origin, the source some of them are our enemies today, right? Syria and Iraq and Yemen. Very, very interesting, in my opinion. So, Shana Tova, as you bless in Hebrew, Happy New Year. This is Rotem Magen reporting for the All Israel YouTube channel.